everybody. Thank you for stopping by. My name is In Jin and welcome to iHome Church. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for your comments. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, please remember to subscribe to our email list. Today is a wonderful, wonderful Sunday morning that just happens to be Father's Day. And for those of you who've spent inordinate amounts of time surfing the internet to find the perfect gift for our fathers, I know what you've gone through. I certainly have had my dealings in terms of trying to prepare the best Father's Day gift for my father. The interesting thing was I read online a national survey taken by some of these corporations, and they asked fathers all across the country, what would you like to receive as the best Father's Day gift? And what would you put in the category of all the gifts that you would not like to receive? Well, on the list of all the things that the fathers do not want to receive on Father's Day, on the top of the list were number 1, ties, number 2, cologne, and number 3, books. And the list of all the things that the fathers would like to receive, number 1 is a really, really nice dinner, preferably a steak. Number 2 was to be spoiled for the whole day. And number 3 was something techie. And so when I read this survey, I must confess that I've been terribly guilty when it comes to picking the wrong gift for my father, because for so many years I've given him ties, but I do have an excuse. It's because my mom asked me to buy a new and a nice, fabulous tie for my father. But I thought it was quite interesting how some of the fathers went on to elaborate as to why their list of what they wanted was the best one. And this one father in particular said, you know, I want the best steak dinner in the best part of town with my family. And then secondly, I want to be spoiled for the rest of the day. So I guess the interviewer asked the father, well, how would you like to be spoiled? What do you mean you want to be spoiled? And then the father basically kind of tapped on his chin and said, well, it would really be nice to start off the evening with a nice massage. And then I would like to open up a box of Victoria's Secrets. And so the interviewer said, so Victoria's Secrets for your wife? And the father said, well, yeah, first my wife and then for me. And then, oh dear, that's what I thought. And then he said, I want something techie, which means I want my children and my family to leave me alone in my man cave with a remote. So this was his idea of what a perfect Father's Day gift should be. Well, my father, the Reverend Sun Myung Moon, has already ascended into the spirit world, but I feel closer to my father than ever before. And when I was preparing for the sermon, I revisited one of my favorite stories in the book of Luke, in the Gospel of Luke. It's chapter 15, verse 11 through 32. All of you know it as the parable of the Prodigal Son. And it's a fantastic story in that it really teaches a lot of life lessons in a very short amount of time and in a very short amount of space. You know, basically it's a story about 2 sons, one older, one younger. You know, the younger one is going through the rebellious phase of his life and basically demands his father to give his share of the lion's pot. He wants his inheritance. He wants the property split between his older brother and himself. And he takes his part of the property and the spoils that comes along with the inheritance and takes off for the big wide world. And we read on in the Gospel of Luke that you know, he spent a good number of years just wasting all the inheritance away. And until he found himself in a place where he was like a beggar. And the only thing he could do was to return home. And as he's returning home, he's kind of thinking to himself, well, I have sinned against my father. I've done all these bad things. I'm going to go back and, I'm going to try to make good. And even as he's kind of approaching on the road to his house, that's where his heart is at. I'm a sinner. I'm no good. I've done a lot of bad things. And in a way, he's kind of in a process of repenting to himself in preparation for the big appointed hour when he would have to confront his father. And he doesn't know what to expect other than probably the realization that, maybe it's not going to be the best homecoming ever. But he proceeds on, nevertheless. And when his father realizes that it's the youngest son on his way back home, the first thing that the father sees in the son is not somebody who has sinned, who has rebelled, who has lost all the money. The first reaction that the father has is, there's my son. There's my long lost son. And so what does the Bible tell us that the father does? Father sees the son. Father is filled with compassion or moved with pity or tenderness, meaning that he is feeling the sorrow of his son coming back home after making all of these mistakes. And he is compassionate towards the son, meaning the father can empathize with the son. Father is not out there standing by the door saying, how dare you enter into this house after doing all those wrong and horrible things. Father puts himself in the position of the son. Father is able to do that because of his mature love. And he can feel what the son must be feeling. So out of love, he rushes and runs to the son and embraces him and covers him with kisses. And I am sure the son is in a state of shock. And the son is trying to utter, Father, I have sinned against you. I've done all these wrong things. But the incredible thing about this story is that nowhere in the text of the Gospel of Luke do you get kind of like this climax of father meeting with the son, coming to a head, and father finally saying, I forgive you, my son. There's no climax and a resolution of sorts. In fact, there's none of that. The father doesn't put himself in the position to say, I forgive you, you sinner of a son. Father just embraces him, sees him, runs to him, hugs him, kisses him. Nothing of the sort is spoken. And even though the son is trying to understand what's going on, saying, Father, I've sinned, I've done all these things. Father's heart, or a parental heart, has none of that. In other words, the father is not attached to the condition that needs to be fulfilled by forgiveness before he is able to love. Father loves unconditionally. Father loves without fulfillment of certain attachments that we might have. So to me, a lot of pastors and a lot of theologians have written about this parable of Jesus, especially the story of the prodigal son. And even a great German theologian called, his name was Helmut Thielich, he wrote a book called The Waiting Father. And he wrote about the parables of Jesus. And the prodigal son story is the first story that he addresses. And he talks about how the story is really about God's love and God's forgiveness. And yeah, it is. But more importantly than that, to me, this is the story about what true love is all about. Reverend Moon, my father, has taught that the qualities or the characteristics of true love are unchanging, eternal, absolute, and unique. And the incredible thing about this story is that this is just a story not about conditional love, like certain things needs to be fulfilled in order for the son to be forgiven. But it's a beautiful tale of unconditional love, the kind of a love that we as parents have for our kids. You know, I'm a mother of 6, and I have a toddler that is just 2 years old, and I love this boy unconditionally. I don't love him because he is sweet, because he is bright, because he is, you know, such a compelling character. None of those things matter. I love him because he's my son. And this is how a father and this is how a parent loves their child. And through this story, Jesus is kind of giving us a hint. This is not just a story about one father's relationship with a younger son that has gone awry and come back home to be forgiven and to be embraced. This is really a story about how God, our Heavenly Parent or our Heavenly Father, loves us. God loves us unconditionally with a parental heart, like the way the father of the prodigal son in this tale loves his son unconditionally. And so if we were to kind of turn this story around and say, well, let's bring the story up to the modern day. You know, let's say you or I were in that situation. Let's say I had a second son who went out into the world and did whatever he wants. Maybe said awful things about his parents, you know, but one day came home and said, Father and Mother, you know, I've sinned against you. I've done all these things. I've squandered everything away, but I want to come home. How would you react to something like that? How would I react to something like that? Well, I was having a chat with my friend the other day, and my friend was basically saying, you know, I have a daughter that is living with a man who is 3 times her age. And my wife and I are at wit's end about this. And, you know, she has just gone off. She has left school. She left all her family. She left everything to be with this man. And we are just so upset. The father said, I want to wring this guy's neck. And then I want to wring my daughter's neck. You know, and so what are we supposed to do with this situation? It's a huge embarrassment for our family, you know, or the whole community is talking about it. You know, our daughter is only 17 years old and it's absolutely ridiculous. We just never thought something like this would happen. What are we going to do? Well, if we kind of bring that situation to the story of the prodigal son, how should that parent perhaps behave when that daughter, after maybe a year or 2 or 3, decides to come home? Well, the prodigal son story tells us that what the father or the mother should do is to love unconditionally, is to restore the child back to her position as their daughter, is to give her life, a place in the family, resurrect her from being dead to the family, and empower her through reconciliation. That's exactly what took place in the prodigal son story. The father loved the son unconditionally, without any conditions. He saw, he was moved to compassion, filled with pity and tenderness, ran to the son, embraced him, kissed him, loved him up unconditionally. In the story, what else does a father do? Father restores this child's position in the family by asking the servant to bring the best robe, asking the servant to bring a ring to put on his finger, asking the servant to bring a sandal to put on his shoe so that he is no longer a beggar, but he is a member of this family. This is this guy's son. He is restored. The son is restored to his position. And then what does the father do? Father says we must all rejoice and celebrate. Father gives life to the son who was dead to the family. Father resurrects the son back into the family and gives him a new life that he can live now together with the family. And how does the father go about reconciling? Not, basically giving a list of all the things that the son has done and how he can do things better. But father, without talking about the need for forgiveness or any of that speeches, he just celebrates. He tells the servants to kill the fattest calf and prepare a feast, because they are going to celebrate the fact that the son who was dead has come home. He was lost and found. This is the heart of a father in the story of the prodigal son. So to the parent who is really, pulling their hairs out because of their daughter's situation of living with somebody 3 times her age, basically gone off and doing whatever. How are they going to receive her when she comes back home? Instead of standing at the door, saying, you better repent, child, and really beg for mercy on your hands and knees. And only after that am I going to open the door. Is that what the father and the prodigal son did? No. Father was not standing at the door. Father ran to the son to greet. So that initial contact between father, mother, and the daughter in this situation is incredibly important, because that's what sets the tone for the future relationship. The prodigal son story tells us, forget the past. Don't dwell on the past. Think about the present. The present is that your son has come home. The present is that your daughter has come home. Now, how can we move forward? Embrace her. Don't stand by the door. Run to her. And with that initial meeting, a lot of walls are going to come down. Then what should the parents do? Just like the father in the prodigal son story, restore this daughter back into the family. Restore her as your daughter, as your loving daughter. And then what else did the prodigal son's father do? Resurrect her back into the family as somebody with a new life, not somebody who is dead to the family that the family doesn't want to deal with because she is such an embarrassment. No, bring her back, resurrect with love and give her new life. And then what should the family do? Instead of going into different bedrooms and say, well, you did this to me, you did that to me, how could you do this to the family? If the child has come home, the child has been through that scenario in her mind before facing the parent. So what should we do as parents? Just celebrate the homecoming. Celebrate the fact that the child is found. Celebrate the fact that the child is here and a member of the family. So even though this parable was told many, many, many years ago, it can still be a very profound lesson for all of us in that, we can learn how to deal with members of our family with the true love attitude. And, my father has taught that the family is the textbook of true love. That's where you really learn to rub up against each other. And by rubbing up against different character types or different relationship, it better prepares us to rub up against people that we will come across in society, the world, the nation and world. So family is really the place where we need to work out all the kinks, where we need to work out all our difficulties, where we kind of hone our skills to become the true love agent, the true love agent that'll change the world. And so when we look at the prodigal son story, we realize that the son actually has tremendous courage in coming back home. And the father recognizing the courage of the son to make that step, is not going to basically judge him at the door, but is going to welcome him in and celebrate his courage for wanting to come back, for wanting to be a part of the family. So, I grew up in a religious movement that had a whole lot of rules, laws and regulations. And I saw lots of my friends, a lot of second gen, who have lived lives by the book and who have led rebellious lives. And I saw a lot of people get hurt because, the difference between second gen, the ones that are born in the movement, and the ones that are not, the first gen, those of you who actually made that decision to join this church and own your faith, is the fact that we never had a chance to own our faith. And so many times, my friends or even my own children, I'm sure, will have to go through the process of coming to own their own faith. And sometimes that means going through the rebellious years, doing what is seen as not kosher or not by the book. But when our children come back home, how should we as parents receive them? How should their homecoming be? And the interesting thing about this prodigal son is that many times in the context of a family, the roles of father, mother, and the child is reversed, in that many times the parents are actually more like the child. And many times I've seen situations where the child is actually taking care of the parent. So when you find yourself in that situation, and you find yourself in the place where you are responsible for your parents, we might feel like, why am I strapped with all this responsibility? Why can't they be my parents? Why do I have to do this? I can have a litany of all the angst and frustration and anger that I can have towards my parents. But when we think about the relationship between the father and the son and the prodigal son, we realize that our relationship with our parents, whether it's perfect or less than perfect, is really a chance to deal with the different things the different issues or problems that arise. And it's a wonderful opportunity to kind of deepen our understanding of each other and deepen the ways we can learn to love each other in a true and in a genuine way. So on this incredible Father's Day, please think about those people that mean a great deal to you, especially your father or the father figures in your life, or even God. And when we think about how all of us need to come home, sooner or later we come from God, we will go back to God in the end of our life. But all of us in our search for a meaning in our life are really looking for a way to come home to God. And so as we go through this in our different roles as parents, as child, as sister, and as brother, as grandparents, as grandchildren, it might be a good idea to kind of re-examine this story of the prodigal son. And the single most important thing for me is that this story is really about true love. It's really, for me, it's more than a story about forgiveness and reconciliation, in that the father never really utters the words, "I forgive you," because it's already done. And that's what a parental heart is all about. So regardless of where we've been, think about where we are today and how we can make our lives better, starting with today. So go out and wish your father a happy Father's Day. And remember the national survey. What does fathers want? A nice steak dinner. Wants to be spoiled for the day. So you might want to give your father a massage and let your dad have something techie. And if that means a remote in the man's cave, let your daddy have it. So with that, with that said, we here at iHome Church would love to wish you a wonderful Father's Day. Please have a wonderful weekend. See you soon. Bye-bye.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, I could offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love. When the evening shadows and the stars appear, when there's no one there to dry your tears, I could hold you for 1,000,000 years to make you feel my love. Storms are raging on the rolling sea, and on the highway of regrets, winds of change are blowing wild and free. You ain't seen nothing like me yet. I go hungry, I go black and blue, I go crawling down the avenue. There is nothing that I wouldn't do to make you feel my love, yeah. You feel my love. I know you haven't made your mind up yet, but I could never do you wrong. I've known it from the moment that we met, no doubt in my mind where you belong. I could make you happy, make your dreams come true. There is nothing that I wouldn't do. Go to the ends of the earth for you to make you feel my love. Yeah. To make you feel my love.
If you have questions and comments, please leave them below this video or go to injinmoon.com and use the contact form. And don't forget to sign up to our email list. Thank you. Bye-bye.